Over the past month, we have compared a number of different self-publishing platforms, everything from Amazon KDP to Barnes & Noble Press and beyond. Well, today we're going to talk about three aggregate publishers I've used over the past, few years. And that includes Smashwords, Draft2Digital, and PublishDrive. One of these publishers isn't like the other, but then again, they're all unique and they bring their own value to the table. So you're going to want to make sure you stay tuned to today's podcast. What's shaking, everybody? Today's podcast is brought to you by the Amazon Self-Publisher. Have you picked up my 5-time award-winning book that covers Amazon keywords, Amazon reviews, and promotional and marketing strategies? All in one book? Yeah, we get 3 different books in one book through the Amazon Self-Publisher. Get all of my details and insights when you visit dalelinks.com/selfpubbook. And do me a favor, if you've already read it, leave me a review wherever you bought it from. I'd thank you so much. Why are we talking about Smashwords, Draft2Digital, and PublishDrive? You're probably saying, well, gosh, man, you invited me here. Like, what's the deal here? Well, these are 3 choices I've used since roughly 2015 and one of those 2016 to 2017. All share a lot in common, but one has a big advantage with a small barrier of entry. We're going to compare these options. Now, usually in these comparisons, I've talked about file types and things like that, but for the sake of brevity, we're going to skip past those type of things and discuss some of the more, poignant issues, ebook distribution, print books, audiobooks, of course. So let's start out with ebooks. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get this one out the way. This is the only file type I'll talk about. It's Epub. Just come to those platforms with Epub. If you can get your book all formatted, bring them to those platforms. That's the ideal way to go. Because if you go to a platform like, say, Smashwords, they have something that's called the meat grinder. Now, they say they'll take a doc or a docx. They take all these different types of files, but when you upload it, it goes through their system that they lovingly call meat grinder. That's not the name I gave it. And it is just about as ominous as you would think. Because the problem is, if you upload something and it doesn't jive with that meat grinder, it will spit it back to you and say, fix it. Now, if you go through the whole FAQ section, which is, I swear, novel length on Smashwords, they have this whole philosophy of nuking a document. Now, let me explain nuking a document to you. Let's say that you have written out your entire manuscript. What you would do is copy the contents on that specific manuscript, and then you go over to a complete blank manuscript and you paste it without the formatting. So you're removing all headers, you're removing all page numbers, you're removing any type of hyperlinks, you're removing any type of endnotes, footnotes, all those type of things. Yeah. And then you have to go through and painstakingly add those things that they will only support. So that's why I say is just save yourself the heartache. Bring Epub. It's so much easier. And to my recollection, they will take 10 megabytes for your manuscript if it's a doc or docx. But if it's Epub, they allow you up to 15 megabytes. Not bad. All right. Now you're probably saying this is all well and good, but Dale, where exactly am I going to get my book formatted for Epub? I can't afford to get an interior formatter. That's totally okay because Draft2Digital has their own auto formatting software. Now, PublishDrive, unfortunately, I didn't do my due diligence on this one. They may have some type of formatting software or some type of service for that. Unfortunately, I haven't used them for ebook distribution lately, so I don't recall off the top of my head. Either way, Draft2Digital has the automated interior formatter. It's 100% free. I've even had an interview with the marketing director for Draft2Digital, Kevin Tomlinson, say, yeah, you guys are totally fine going in and just using it. You don't have to distribute through us. This is just one of those perks that they try to give out to the indie author community. Yeah, they would love for you to publish there, but they're also realistic and say, hey, here's this tool, use it as you see fit. I like it. It has so many different types of templates that you can use, and you don't have to be a techie type person. All you got to do is just upload the manuscript, you pick a specific type of format, and done. That's the part I love. All right, now let's talk about distribution for these ebooks. Smashwords has 12 different online retail platforms and distributors. Okay, so there are not just the places like Apple iBooks or Barnes & Noble Press or Kobo. There's also some library-based and subscription-based systems that they use, for instance, like Overdrive. Draft2Digital has 12 different online retail platforms and distributors. Now, you're probably saying, wait a second, they both have 12? Really? So it's exactly the same. No. Not at all. Believe it or not, Smashwords has a few unique avenues that Draft2Digital doesn't have. And then vice versa. Draft2Digital has other avenues that Smashwords doesn't have. And each of those platforms actually have worked out some type of a royalty agreement with each one of those platforms, and how that is paid out varies per each one of those ones. So make sure that you're doing your due diligence. Look at, well, how much are you getting in royalties over at Kobo through Smashwords versus Kobo through Draft2Digital. Something to always want to kind of weigh in on, and I'm always taking a look at those type of things. So there's some overlap in those two avenues, and this is places like Apple, Kobo, and Barnes & Noble, but let's not count out PublishDrive just yet. Take a deep breath on this one. This is crazy. 30 different platforms and online retailers. What? Okay, so there is some overlap with the previous two options of Smashwords and Draft2Digital, but they've got way wider reach. I mean, come on, let's just do the math. 12 versus 30. Now, some people would probably make the argument that some of these sites may not be generating that much organic traffic and sales to your books on those platforms, but you never know until you try, right? I think it's kind of cool that they have distribution out to China. Where else are you going to get distribution to China? You're not going to get it on Smashwords, and you're not going to get it on Draft2Digital. So if you're wanting to get even wider distribution, PublishDrive has got a little bit of the edge. Actually, a lot of bit of the edge. I just understated that one. Ebook royalties works like this. Smashwords is 85% net profits. Draft2Digital, though, is 90% net profits. Now, you're probably saying net profits. What do you mean by that, Dale? Since these are aggregate publishers, they're distributing it out to different platforms on your behalf. So this means that, let's say they've got an 80% royalty agreement set with Kobo. So anytime Kobo sells a copy of your ebook, 80% of that sale goes back over to, say, Draft2Digital or back to Smashwords. At that point, you get 85% of that 80% or 90% of that 80%, if that makes sense. So you've got that middleman. Because an aggregate publisher is essentially a middleman working on your behalf, they're going to take a small portion of revenue. However, this is where it makes PublishDrive just a little different. And you got to hear me out on this one, because I know as soon as I heard about what they do, I was like, nah. But it makes sense, though, if you think about this. PublishDrive does 100% net profits. You're like, wait, what? They're sending this out for me, publishing it on my behalf, and I get 100% of the paycheck. Yes, but there's a little bit of an asterisk next to there. You're going to get 100% of the net profits. However, you have monthly subscription fees that you have to pay for in order to use PublishDrive. Now, I think that you can have 2 publications for $4.99 per month. Might have been like 5 publications for $10. You'd have to go to PublishDrive's website at PublishDrive.com, find out more details about that. But to be honest, if you think about this, if it's just 2 publications for $4.99 per month, let's just say those 2 publications sell at least 1 copy. You priced them at $9.99 a piece. You're going to pay for that subscription. So everything after that, those first 1 or 2 sales in a given month, it's gravy. So as long as you are selling at least 1 or 2 of those in a month, it will pay for those fees. So it's Not a terrible idea, to be honest with you. Just go in and do the math, by the way. You'll maybe my math is 100% off, but if you figure out how many sales per month to justify paying for a subscription to get 100% net profits makes sense to you, then PublishDrive might be it. And I'll tell you, I initially had my nose turned up to it because I got used to PublishDrive being just like Smashwords and Draft2Digital, that there was a revenue share. But then they decided, let's go ahead and do something completely different. And I was miffed. I was angry. I was appalled. But then I was like, that actually makes sense. They get their cut. Fantastic. As soon as they get their cut, the rest is mine. This is actually a winning situation if you already have a following as an author to distribute through PublishDrive, because you're going to get 100% of the net profits, and all you're going to have to pay is just a monthly fee. Now, that monthly recurring fee does add up after a while. And in the event that you're like, I can't afford it anymore, it's going to delist all those books and put your account kind of like in a freeze state, if you will. Now, I haven't had to go through that situation before, but something to think about for sure. Now, let's transition over to audiobooks. We're going to say print books for last because it kind of gets dicey. Smashwords and Draft2Digital have direct distribution through Findaway Voices. Now, you are not publishing your audiobook through Draft2Digital. You're not publishing your audiobook through Smashwords. You're publishing it through Findaway. They just have integration with both of those platforms. So it's kind of nice if you do your ebook, say, through Smashwords, or you do your ebook through Draft2Digital. It has the audiobook option that you can take the metadata and it'll automatically transfer over to Findaway Voices for you, making it a lot simpler. Now, I'm not going to go too in depth about Findaway Voices. We'll talk about some of the royalties and all that in just a moment. What about PublishDrive? All right, so Captain Insano here, PublishDrive, said, 30 different platforms for ebooks just wasn't enough. They do 11 platforms for audiobooks. What? And this also includes distribution through Findaway. So one of those 10 goes over to Findaway. You get 100% of that. Wow. Now, keep in mind, Draft2Digital or Smashwords don't take any of your earnings through Findaway Voices. It just goes directly to Findaway Voices. That's it. They just make the introduction to Findaway Voices, their friend and their companion. PublishDrive does the same thing, and you get 100% of the profits, but remember, you're going to have to pay a subscription fee based on that specific audiobook every single month. They have additional global reach not found anywhere else. There are some options, like some audiobook platforms, never heard of them ever before. And this is crazy because Findaway already has distribution to over, I think, 40 different platforms for audiobooks. So that's telling you right now that between using Findaway Voices more specifically, and PublishDrive, you're hitting over 50 different audiobook platforms. Now, I have yet to really get in there and try to play around with the audiobooks over on PublishDrive, but stay tuned to this podcast because I anticipate that I'll share some more information, because last year, PublishDrive ran an AppSumo deal that allowed up to like 96 slots, I think, for $140 or something like that, flat fee. I was like, I'll take that. Absolutely. I could be able to make that type of sales within a given month to that publishing platform. So I picked that up. I was like, done. I don't have to worry about any subscription fees. So by the way, keep an eye on AppSumo. That way, if they do that again, take advantage of it. Alrighty. Royalties when it comes to audiobooks. Again, Smashwords and Draft2Digital defers over to Findaway Voices. Findaway Voices, it's 80% of net profits, because Findaway Voices is a middleman, is an aggregate publisher. So they're going to take 20% revenue share. PublishDrive, 100% of net profits. Now, each platform has different royalty rates. So obviously, anything that comes by way of Findaway Voices, okay, you're going to get 80%. That's going to go over to you on PublishDrive. So it's kind of cool. I think I like the fact that there's wider distribution. Again, I have to test it out and see how well it works, because wide doesn't necessarily always equal, better. So print books, last thing we're going to go ahead, tap into. Smashwords does not do print books, and it doesn't look like they're going to be integrating anytime soon that I know of. There was some rumblings that are going to be happening within Smashwords headquarters about some updates on their website, but I will update you as soon as I know some information about that. Draft2Digital, though, has print books. Now, it was paperback only in beta. Now, if you already signed up for a Draft2Digital account, you might not have print available to you. Just a slight suggestion in Draft2Digital, please do not kill me on this one. Just ask for it. Reach out to support and say, I would love to have access to print beta. I've had a couple of people that reached out to them. They said, yeah. I reached out to them. They did the same thing for me. They're like, sure. So they're handing out this beta. Now, why is it in beta? Because it's still being tested out. They're not 100% behind it just yet. They want to make sure it makes sense for the authors on their platform and makes sense for them as a business. Because at the end of the day, it needs to be something that's worthwhile for everybody involved. Draft2Digital doesn't want to lose their underwear in this crazy little thing here. They want to make sure that they can take care of themselves, but also take care of the authors at the same time. Now, PublishDrive has paperback only as well. It's going to be interesting when you hear the distribution for them because one of those has a leg up on the other. Have I seen the print quality of either of these companies? Yes and no. I can tell you technically, no. I have not actually bought directly from Draft2Digital because technically you don't buy directly from Draft2Digital. Can you do some proof copies and things like that? Absolutely. But hear me out for just a second. Same thing goes for PublishDrive. So the trim sizes they currently have for Draft2Digital, you have 6 standard trim sizes. So pretty much like the 6x9, 8.5 by 11, just the standard trim sizes. PublishDrive, why are you insane? Why are you crazy? 29 trim sizes. What? I'm speechless. This is crazy. 29 trim sizes. Let's put context onto how large of a selection this is. Amazon KDP offers 16 trim sizes for paperback. 16. PublishDrive went ahead off the crazy end of the pool. They were like, oh man, we're going nuts on this one. 29. Wow. Now, the distribution side of things. They both share 2 avenues. Notice I'm not talking about Smashwords. Sorry, Smashwords. We're not talking about you since you don't have any print. You're out of the conversation at this point. Draft2Digital has 2. It's Amazon and Ingram. Now, what would lead me to believe the distribution agreement that's probably done through Kindle Direct Publishing or some avenue of some sort? So that would make me think, and this is a theory here, folks. I do not know this as fact, but I would believe that those are the same print books you're going to be getting. Draft2Digital, pretty much fulfilling it through Amazon and Ingram. PublishDrive has 3 different avenues. Very similar. Amazon, Ingram, and something else called China print. So you get a little bit of a leg up. So this is why I say there's a good possibility that I have ordered their type of books because it's the same print fulfillment that's done for KDP and Ingram Spark. And both fantastic quality. There's some people that would argue with me on this one. That's totally fine if you disagree with me on it. But let's at least consider the fact that there's China print. Now, the royalties when it comes to the print books, Draft2Digital does 45% minus print fees. So you get 45% of the retail price of your book when it sells minus any print fees for that. Now, PublishDrive, I'm going to give quotes on this one, 100%. Okay? They have agreements, though, put in place with places like Amazon at 50%, Ingram at 45%, and China print at 50%. Now, think about this for just a second. Who are they distributing through with Amazon? What is their avenue? Because if you go directly through Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, you get 60% minus print fees. But if I go through PublishDrive, their agreement is for 50% minus print fees. What happened to that additional 10%? Is that something that Amazon took before PublishDrive was ever able to take that? Not trying to put a tinfoil hat on here, but where's that extra 10% going? Is it going to PublishDrive? What happened? What happened in your negotiations and distributing through Amazon? So that's got me kind of scratching my head. And then Ingram, that's the lowest end of things. They're probably giving the full full wholesale discount which is done through Ingram Spark, you could do that upwards of 55%, hence your 45% minus print fees. Now, if you go directly through Ingram Spark, though, you can drop it down to as low as 35% subtracted from that. So that means you get 65% of each sale minus print fees. I don't know the deal on China print, so I'm not going to even try to speculate on that one. Hey, folks, today's podcast was brought to you in part by the awesome and fantastic 5-time award-winning book, The Amazon Self-Publisher. Get your copy today when you visit dalelinks.com/selfpubbook, and do me a huge favor, would you? Leave a review for it wherever you purchase it from. I'd much appreciate it. Thank you so much. Final thoughts. You're probably saying, all right, Smashwords versus Draft2Digital versus PublishDrive. It was a battle to the death, Dale. Who came out on top? Well, I'm going to leave that up to you, but instead of thinking of just black or white, why don't we focus into something that's a little bit more full color? Try them all. Just avoid duplicate listings. You don't want to have 3 copies on Apple of your ebook. That would just be insane. And much less, they actually kind of get a little salty about that type of thing. They don't like seeing duplicate listings. So deselect avenues used in other models. So what I would say, for instance, is if you happen to use PublishDrive, you can start with PublishDrive with the widest reach. Then deselect any avenues already used through PublishDrive on Smashwords and Draft2Digital. And then if you plan on using Smashwords and Draft2Digital, same thing is going to work. Start with one platform, choose that one to kind of be like your anchor position. And then the other one just fills in all the other avenues that isn't otherwise covered by the other platform. Hopefully that makes sense. You just want to avoid any duplicate publishing or distribution. Hey folks, next week we're going to be going into another deep dive on an aggregate publisher or two, actually, that we don't talk too often about, and that's StreetLib versus Tableau. Are they legit? I mean, we hear them mentioned quite a bit, and I've talked about StreetLib in some of my news segments before, and I've talked about Tableau in the past, but are they something worth pursuing? We're going to talk about that next week's podcast, so make sure you stay tuned. You can get advanced access to all podcasts when you visit dalelinks.com/YouTube podcast 1 week before the audio content publishes. Wherever you're at, whether you're watching me on YouTube or listening to me over on Apple iTunes or podcasts, or iHeartRadio, or even over on Audible or Amazon, I appreciate you listening in today. Make sure you tune in very next week. Till later, this has been Self-Publishing with Dale, and you folks, take care of yourselves out there.